boys and girls, we are going to talk about author's craft. We talked about it last week. We're going to talk about it again today. Author's craft is the language and technique a writer uses to make his or her writing interesting, and the way a writer communicates ideas to the reader. Now, they use several techniques. They use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 special techniques to communicate these ideas to the reader and to make it more interesting. And so one of the techniques they use is called voice. And remember, voice is, what is it? It's the author's writing style that makes his or her writing unique. And how do they do that? Well, they use certain words to show his or her style. The author's voice may change depending on the genre of the text. So they might use a different type of voice depending on if they're writing informational text, fantasy, realistic fiction, because in realistic fiction you would use informal language, which you would not use if you were writing informational text. So it would be different depending on your audience and the type of text you are writing. Tone, and that is the author's feelings toward a subject. A writer uses certain words to show his or her attitude towards the text. The words can be positive, negative, or neutral. Remember, we could see that the author was feeling very positive and excited about soccer. I was going to call it hockey, about soccer. We could see that in parts of soccer shootout, where it was very exciting. The mood, and that is the emotions and feelings of the reader while reading a text. So while you're reading a text, you get different emotions and feelings while you're reading it. In a mystery, you may feel suspenseful. You may feel surprised. You may feel tense. All those things you may be feeling while you're reading. If you're reading a fantasy, you may feel wonder or excitement. If you're reading an article, it may make you feel serious or thoughtful. If you're reading a book that's funny, you may be feeling humorous. You may be laughing out loud while you're reading that book. Now, we also have word choice. And the word choice, that is vocabulary, very precise nouns, sensory words, and vivid verbs that make the text more interesting. So here's an example of that. The United States Capitol has a magnificent circular domed room or rotunda at its center. So they use very precise words. They use the words magnificent, circular, dome, and rotunda to really describe the U.S. Capitol for us. Then they use sensory words. Those are descriptive words that make the reader see, hear, smell, taste, or feel something. So we get a real feel for whatever it is that they are describing. The puppy's sleek orange and white coat was silky smooth and feathery soft. So those words really paint a picture for us. So we can really get a feeling for whatever it is the author is describing. They were describing a food. We would really want to know what that food was like. If they are describing something that we're looking at, so we can really get a picture of it in our mind. We want to be able to picture that. An author might describe a character, so we know what that character looks like. Do authors describe characters in books? Yes. Yes. Now in our story, Soccer Shootout, we don't necessarily have a description of our characters, because are we starting at the very beginning of that story? We are not. We only have a portion of that story. That is not the full story. That's just an excerpt from a bigger story. Yes, that's part of a story. We just have a small portion of that book. There's more of that book. We only have a portion of it. So there's more that goes on in that book, that story. We just have an excerpt from it. So those are the things that an author does. So what we're going to be doing, boys and girls, we are going to be reading a story too much stuff. We're going to be reading portions of it, and we're going to be discussing some things about the author's craft. And guess where that is? That is in your Google Classroom. So you are going to have to open up to it. It is called Too Much Stuff. That's exactly what it's called, Too Much Stuff. Everyone should have it.